Hey everybody, this is Frilioth and welcome back to another Minecraft tutorial. Today I'm going to show you how to build this really simple villager breeder that works in Minecraft 1.17. Now this is a Java build, it only works on Java, it will not work on Bedrock, it won't work on Xbox or PlayStation or Pocket Edition or Switch or anything like that. It won't work on Bedrock, it's purely a Java build. Okay, so please don't ask in the comments if this works on Bedrock, it won't work on Bedrock. Now during this tutorial I'm going to be spending a little bit of time explaining what various bits do in the breeder. I do this so hopefully you'll understand exactly how it works, and also if it doesn't work you might be able to fix it yourself. It'll just save you asking questions later. If you know everything there is to know about villager breeding in 1.17, then just skip through the video to the parts where I'm building. You don't have to sit and listen to me tell you stuff that you already know. Now this breeder uses the mechanic that allows baby villagers to associate themselves with a bed at the top when they're born, but overnight they forget where the bed is, and that allows the breeding pair of villagers at the top to have another baby. If the babies at the bottom don't forget where the beds are overnight, then the breeder will break. So if you sleep, or you're on a server that has everybody sleeps on the server and you don't sleep overnight, there is a chance that the babies at the bottom won't forget about the beds. Okay, so you need to allow the babies to do that by not sleeping for at least 5 minutes every night. And this breeder also has an on-off switch at the top which allows you to turn it off and on at any time. So this will produce villagers non-stop, 2 a day, as long as the villagers in the pod at the top have got food. If you want to turn it off, there are 2 ways. You can either not feed them and eventually they'll run out of food and they'll stop breeding, or you can flick the lever that's on the top of the farm and that will turn the breeder off. Now I'll put a list of everything you need to build this breeder on screen now, so pause the video if you need to. And now we'll crack on and build it. So firstly we're going to build the unloading system that's going to take your villagers off to your iron farms or your villager trading halls and that kind of thing. To do that we're going to have to dig down a few blocks underneath your villager breeder. So if we start by making ourselves a little area underneath, dig down 2 blocks directly underneath your breeder, this just to give us a bit of wriggle room really. And you want to get inside here, and this block here, that one there, you need to pop that one out and stick in a dispenser. Now this has to be a dispenser. Don't go putting a dropper there, because if you do, the minecarts are going to spit out and just sit on the floor as entities. They're going to despawn and it won't work. It has to be a dispenser. Now on top of that, we need to put down some rails. So if we stick down some rails there, there and there, like that, we need to pop out that block. We'll put that back in a second. And then we want to put rails up here, leading it off to wherever you want to go to. Now whip out a lever, you want to stick a lever there and just power it, and that powers all of the rails there. So now we need to take out some hoppers and we need to put a hopper feed into the back of the dispenser there in order to get your minecarts in. So I'm going to have to pop out a few more blocks like that. I'm going to have to crouch and put hoppers there, there and there like that. Okay, and then you can put those blocks back in again. You need a solid block there. If we were to go straight down with hoppers like that, the minecart would get dispensed, but it wouldn't move because it won't push against a hopper. It will only push against a solid block, which is why we need a solid block there like that. So now when we press the button, the hopper minecart is going to be dispensed onto the tracks and it's just immediately going to disappear off into the distance. Now we want to put in the button that's going to fire the mechanism. So if we stick a rim of blocks around here, this is going to be the bottom part of your farm, or the wall around the bottom of your farm. Now don't worry about that. Don't think that the minecart won't go through there. It will. Okay, it won't go back, but it will go up that way. Okay, and you want to put your button on there. So take out a button, can be any button, doesn't have to be a wooden one, can be a stone one if you want it to. And then we want to put a piece of redstone dust on there, like that. And we want that piece of redstone dust to go down there, okay? So just follow it around onto that block. That's going to power that dispenser. You might hear it clicking when I press the button. Okay, it's going to power that dispenser when you press the button. So we can then close up that hole there. Okay, now we need this bottom bit here to be filled. This is where your babies are going to stand. Okay, so that needs to be filled up like this. But we can't put a solid block there. If we put a solid block there, it's going to cut off the redstone and it's not going to work. So in there, you're going to need a slab or a stair. So take yourself out a slab and stick a slab there like that. Okay, so now the signal will still come down, but the water won't fall through. And then you fill the rest in with solid blocks like that. Okay? And then you want to whip out your 2 chests and put one there, one there. In here, we're going to put the minecars. So now you should have something that looks like that. Now take out your glass blocks. This can be any coloured glass. I'm using black, but this can be any colour, clear or whatever you like. And then you want to stick a layer of 2 blocks around the outside of the breeder. You are going to have to get inside, so maybe just leave a couple out so you can climb in, because you'll probably be in survival. So these don't have to be glass blocks if you don't want them to be, but if you want to be able to see in and see how many babies or villages you have, it's going to have to be glass, but you can use solid blocks if you want to. Now you want to get inside, stick a temporary block just there, and you'll need to put a fence post there like that. This is going to be the post where your villagers stand on. Your breeding pair of villagers will stand on this fence post. So now you've got something that looks like that. Now you want to take out a couple of temporary blocks, 3 temporary blocks, and put them like that. Okay, we're going to have to put some trapdoors against the blocks. So by having temporary blocks in there, it just makes it a lot easier. And then you want to take out your trapdoors, and you want to put some trapdoors like that. These have to be trapdoors as well. Okay, and they can't be iron trapdoors, they have to be wood. And then you want to do another layer of trapdoors like that. And then you can jump up here and you can break those 3 blocks. Now your breeding pair of villagers are going to stand in here. Okay? And they're not going to be able to get out. But because they're trapdoors, they're going to think they can path away to get to the beds. If we were to use solid blocks there, they wouldn't be able to get out to get to the beds. Therefore, the breeder wouldn't work. That's why these have to be trapdoors. Now take out your solid blocks again, and you want to put some solid blocks all the way around here. Like that. And then you want to fill in the middle with glass blocks. Now you want to make sure that those glass blocks there aren't 1 block lower. If your fence post attaches to a block, then this won't work. Okay, you need that row of glass there, that floor needs to be above the fence post. All right, and the little babies, the adult villagers won't fall through that gap there, but the little babies will. Now you want to whip out your trapdoors again. We need to put some trapdoors inside. Now at the moment, if we stick some villagers in there, they'll start throwing food to each other, because that's what villagers do. And as they throw the food is going to fall straight down there. So the villagers in the breeding pod are going to lose the food, but also the babies at the bottom are going to be able to pick the food up. And we don't want that to happen. So we want to stick a trap door. You'll have to crouch to do this. We need to stick a trap door at the bottom there like that. Okay? And that way, when the villagers are stood here with the trapdoor down, when they throw food to each other, it's going to land on the trapdoor and not fall down. So the baby villagers won't get it and these guys won't lose it. Okay? So now you should have something that looks like that. Now it's time to stick the beds in. So you want to grab yourself 4 beds and you want to stand, if this is the front of your breeder, get up here and stick 1 bed there. Make sure the heads of the bed are pointing away from the pod. If you put the beds that way round, the villagers in there at night will jump out of that pod and they'll sleep. And then in the morning, they'll stand up and they'll just be out here. They'll be running around. Okay, so you need to make sure that the head of the bed is the furthest point away from the breeding pair of villagers. If it's not, this won't work. Okay, and you want to do that on all 4 corners. Okay, I'm going to bang on about this just a little bit more. The head of the bed, when they're asleep, their head needs to be there. If their head is there, they'll be able to jump out of the pod and they'll be able to sleep. With the head of the bed being at that side, it's close enough for them to take a bed, but it's not close enough for them to go to sleep. All they need to be able to do is have access to a bed. They don't need to be able to sleep. They just need access to the bed. And because of the trapdoors and the bed being there, they have access to it, but they can't sleep on it. But they've also got 2 spare beds as well. So the 2 villagers in there will take a bed each, but the village will only have 2 villagers in it, but there'll be 4 beds. So it'll have room in that village for 2 more baby villagers. And these guys in the breeding pods will breed. The baby villager will pop out and it will associate itself with one of the beds. But because it's on the little fence post, it's going to fall through and it's going to land in the bottom. It's going to land in the water. In 5,000 ticks or so, the breeding pair will breed. As long as they have food, they'll breed again, and the little baby villager will associate itself with the second bed. That will fall through. Then you'll have 2 baby villagers in the bottom. Overnight, those 2 villagers will try to sleep, but because they can't path to the bed, they'll forget where the bed is. And by the time the morning comes and these guys have woken up and they're ready to breed again, there will be 2 spare beds back in that village. So these guys will think, we've got 2 spare beds, we'll have some baby villagers. And they'll start breeding again. And that little baby villager will associate itself with the bed. It'll fall down into there and the cycle will continue. So now you should have something like that. Now we need to get the villagers in there, and that's relatively simple. You need to get some villagers onto the roof and then push them into this hole. And you can either do that by doing a bit of villager wrangling. You can push them upstairs, get them in boats and break the boats up here, minecart them up if you want, or get them in through a water chute, which is what I'm going to do now. So make yourself a basic water chute. And this is just one example. You don't have to use this particular method. I'm just going to use it. And then get yourself a sign and put a sign just there. And then fill this with water. Like that. And then you need to get your villager and push him into the water. Hello, fella. Get in. There you go. He's going to fall down there. Might take a bit of damage. It's not going to hurt him too much. And then the other fella goes in there like that. There you go. And then you can get rid of this. So now you've got your 2 villagers in there. Now what you need to do, before you start throwing food to them, you need to make sure that trapdoor is opened so they fall down. At the moment, if they have a baby, he'll stand on that trapdoor. So open that trapdoor. They'll fall down onto the fence gate. The fence post, sorry, and then open this one round this side, close it, and now any food they throw to each other is going to land on the trapdoor and not go down to the bottom. So we'll close that for a second. Now take out your sticky piston. You need to stand up underneath it, stick a sticky piston just there, making sure it's facing downwards. If you're standing here and you've got it facing sideways, it's not going to work. So get right underneath it. Place the sticky piston like that, have it facing down. And on the sticky piston, you want to stick down a glass block. Now this has to be a glass block because what it's going to do is get forced down. It's going to cover their heads. And with their heads being covered, they won't be able to see each other and therefore they won't breed. They'll stop breeding. But if it's a solid block, they're going to die of suffocation. So that has to be glass. Now if you're using a texture pack, that changes glass blocks into solid blocks, and some of the texture packs do this. Once you force that block down onto the villagers, they're going to die. Okay, so if you've got a glass block there and it's suffocating your villagers, it's probably because you're using a texture pack that has changed the glass to a solid block. If you're using normal vanilla or a texture pack that doesn't change glass, then forcing that block down will only do one thing: it'll stop them from breeding. Okay, so now you should have something that looks like that. And then you want to whip up on the top, you want to stick yourself a lever down on the top, and that's going to power the piston. So now, as I say, when that block is down, they can't see each other and they won't breed. Whip that back up again. So now we've only got a few things left to do before we can turn the breeder on and start feeding the villagers, get it working. You need to get inside, and we need to pop out that block there, and we need to replace that with an illuminated block. I'm using a jack-o'-lantern, but it can be a glowstone or a shroom block or sea lantern, anything to give this a bit of light. You don't really need it. This is going to be filled with water, so mobs aren't going to spawn in here. But it's best to have a little bit of light because there are a few spawning blocks up here. That one there are spawnable. If it gets too dark, we're going to get zombies up here. We don't want that. So stick an illuminated block down the bottom. Now we're going to need some water in here that pushes the villagers over to this corner. Now stop. Do not put any water down at the moment. When you put the water in, you've got to remember that that is a slab. Okay, if you were to put water on that slab, it's going to waterlog that slab. All the water is going to flow down underneath. It's going to ruin your rails and your redstone at the bottom. So when you're putting water in here, put it against that solid block or that one, but do not put it on that slab. Okay, if you do, you're just going to ruin half the work you've already done. All right, but you need some water there, so stick it on that block. Okay, now when the little babies are born, they're going to get pushed into this corner, ready to be picked up by the minecart. Now you can get back out and you can stick in those two solid blocks. That's the bottom done. Now grab yourself some minecarts and you want to fill this chest full of as many minecarts as you want. As many as you've got, really. And they'll filter down into the dispenser underneath. Now grab some ladders. You need to be able to get up there. So grab some ladders and just stick some ladders on there like that. And then you can climb up. And this is where you will throw your food in. Okay? Now each one of these villagers needs a portion of food to make a baby. That's obviously one portion for that guy, one portion for that guy. A portion of food is either 12 potatoes, 12 carrots, or 3 pieces of bread. Not beetroot. I don't think beetroot works. It hasn't done for a while unless it changed very recently, but it never used to work for villager breeding. So you need 12 carrots, 12 potatoes, or 3 pieces of bread for each villager for these guys to even think about having a baby. So I'm going to use carrots because I've got a decent carrot farm and also I can spawn them in. So you want to look just above their heads and you want to throw the carrots into the breeder. Like that. Oh yeah, you're happy. I can see you're happy. And then they'll start having a little baby. Now depending on what time of day it is, they could start straight away or they might not do. And within a couple of minutes, we've had ourselves a little baby villager. Now, as I say, they will do that as long as they have food and as long as there are beds available in the village. So if you sleep overnight, that might affect their sleeping habits. It may well mean that the baby at the bottom doesn't forget the bed. Okay, and if the baby at the bottom doesn't forget the bed, then these guys will have little angry particles. They won't work. So if you see your villagers with little angry particles during the day when they're trying to breed, it's probably because these villagers at the bottom are still associated with one of these beds. A couple of things you can do. Really, the easiest one is to just get rid of the villagers out of the bottom of the pod. Just get them in a minecart, get them away from here. Okay, and then they'll forget about the beds and these guys will start breeding again. And as I say, if you want them to stop at any time, just flick that lever. They'll now won't be able to breed. They'll stop breeding and the farm will stay dormant until you turn it on again. So there you have it, a really, really easy to build infinite villager breeder that works in 1.17. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial, everybody. If you have, please don't forget to leave it a like, and if you've really loved it, don't forget to subscribe for future tutorials. This is Frilioth, and I'm out of here.